Yeah, so as we were consolidating in this channel, so number one, it was a bearish channel, right? So ultimately the move was going to be down, and obviously we started. I was in the camp where we would at least rally to 22.5 here, this pivot high before that dump occurred. The black swan event of FTX definitely didn't allow for that. And then once that hit, I mean, it's just been down, down, down. So the fact that we've broken this low now to me tells me, sure, we're going to get some technical bounces, maybe a retrace of this trend line, maybe if we're really lucky, a retrace here. But I still think that you have a 12 to 13,000 high target on this market. And I hate to say it, but I'm leaning more towards a lower target now of maybe sub 10,000. Potentially worst case would be 3,500. I'm hopeful that that doesn't happen, but I think there's so many individual investors and traders now calling for 12 to 13 that it almost makes me think that, as we know, it's either not going to get there or it's going to go lower than that. And then I zone into the 10,000 level because I could see a lot of people putting stops right at 10,000, and it almost makes me think they'll flush it right below 10,000 quickly before a bottom is in.
Hello and welcome to Money Talks. In today's video, President and Chief Market Strategist at InTheMoneyStocks.com and verified crypto investing Gareth Soloway updates about his thoughts on Bitcoin's most recent market crash, what it means for the crypto space, and where is the price heading next. Gareth also talks about whether or not Bitcoin bottom is in, along with his price prediction for the cryptocurrency. Make sure to stick around till the end of this video where Gareth Soloway reveals the key strategies that you can apply to get the maximum benefits out of a Bitcoin bear market.
So my guess is when the dust settles, it'll take us 2 to 3 years to get back there at least. I think it's going to take longer because I think all the past cycles that the Fed was printing money, right? So we're not going to have that at least for the first, I'm guessing for the first year or two. I think if things get bad enough, the Fed will start printing, which then could trigger that next move up. But I think it's going to be a little bit longer of a bear cycle than we're used to because of the lack of the Fed. And I also think that there's going to be a lot of investors that get burned, and these FTX type scenarios, Terra Luna, there's going to be people that say, hey, listen, I bought in at 55, 60,000 and I exited at 12 or 15,000 because I was panicking. I don't trust this to go back in until a bull market comes along that makes them so greedy that they finally jump back in. Case in point, COVID brought back a lot of investors in the stock market that hadn't been involved in years because they got burned in other periods.
The crypto market is having a no good, very bad week. This week's crash brings a sudden reversal after weeks of relative stability for Bitcoin and Ethereum prices. Both tokens are now down more than 20% over the last week, driven by fresh investor skepticism and souring sentiment on the heels of Binance's announcement that it would buy out rival FTX after concerns over FTX's liquidity were raised.
What's crazy, Greg, is that, regulation was like, no one wanted regulation in the space, at least if you were hardcore crypto. And I kept on saying, guys, we need regulation because we need transparency. As an investor who wants to make money on Bitcoin, I need to know what the heck's going on behind the scenes. I need to know there are rules, there are audits, there are things that publicly traded companies need to do. And everyone's like, oh, that's crazy, that's going to wreck the whole crypto thing. But the bottom line is, we're seeing now that you can't trust individuals when there's no oversight, right? There's just this kind of pushing and blurring of the lines, and you have to get regulation in there. And I honestly think that when we get good regulation, that actually could be the bottom in crypto.
While Bitcoin and Ethereum prices have remained low compared to last year, both tokens had been relatively steady even in the face of Fed rate increases, tumbling foreign currencies, and the continued war in Ukraine and stock market crashes.
Wow. So first off, the CPI, it's coming at a point when the markets are already getting very nervous, right? And I think this is coming from crypto, which is super interesting, right? Because usually crypto is an afterthought to stock market, Forex, and all these other things. But you have this kind of issue going on in the crypto markets where FTX is now going under. There could have been mismanagement of funds, of client funds. A lot of this type of thing is making overall nervousness in the investing public. And so when you have a CPI data that could come in hot, it definitely puts a lot of pressure on that number to be in line or better than expected. Because if it's not, if it's hot, you will see more bankruptcies in the crypto markets because the markets will get hammered, and you'll see more exposure of over leveraged, businesses. And you'll also see a stock market where you probably start to see a bigger move down take hold, and probably the June and more recent lows get taken out.
The crash is likely due to the unfolding drama happening at FTX, a popular crypto exchange. As a result of a significant liquidity crisis at FTX, Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao announced that Binance would acquire FTX. Binance is the world's largest centralized crypto exchange, and FTX was one of its biggest competitors. But shortly after introducing the deal, Binance announced late Wednesday afternoon that it would scrap its plans and will not acquire FTX, sending further shockwaves through the market. As a result of corporate due diligence, as well as the latest news reports regarding mishandled customer funds and alleged U.S. agency investigations, we have decided that we will not pursue the potential acquisition of FTX.com, Binance said on Twitter.
To me, it was always going to go lower. And the reason why it was going to go lower for me was that we haven't seen a recession hit in the US. We haven't seen earnings guidance come down substantially yet. We haven't heard, Apple, for instance. I mean, what's amazing about it, the Apple chart, and let's take a look at that one. The Apple chart has been hovering on this trend line right here. We've hit it here, we hit it here, and now we're looking like we're going to break. And for me, I kept on going back to the fact that even though I believe Bitcoin will eventually be that store of safety, that digital gold, in the near term, over the next 6 to 12 months, it's still a risk asset. And so if the stock market, in my book, still has 25% downside on the S&P, where we're down 40, 50%, then to me, I'd be hard pressed to say, oh, well, crypto's going to totally avoid that carnage, right? And so for me, it's kind of like it's always going to go down. It's just a matter of, how long does it take to bottom out?
The terms of the deal haven't been announced yet, but investors are already wary of the kind of attention this will draw from regulators. The SEC reportedly will expand its investigation into FTX, focusing on potential securities law violations, according to the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, I think it's going to be in the first quarter of 2023. So, we still have seen generally strong jobs numbers. I mean, under the hood, we're seeing a little weakening. I do think inflation data at some point is going to start to ease, right? So we're going to see lower inflation. I think that's going to give a false sense of security to the market. We'll get some sort of rally out of it. But then I do think that you start seeing that weaker economic jobs numbers really start to bite. So, end of year, early 2023. And I think there's going to be a reckoning day for the stock market where investors are all of a sudden going to be like, wait, we thought low rates or no more hikes was good, but now we're in a recession and we look to the Fed to start lowering, and the Fed turns back to us and says, hey guys, inflation's still stuck at 4%. We can't lower and create a 20% inflation point. So you have to just deal with this recession. And if you look back historically, the market in the last 20 years or so, we've never had that situation where the Fed didn't come to the rescue. And I think that's going to be the reckoning day where we get in a recession, things just continue to get slowly worse and worse, and the Fed's not able to stimulate like they used to. I just brought that up. The Bitcoin chart was fascinating because I just a couple days ago, I did an interview and I talked about that exact thing. And what was amazing about it is if you look at the time on your chart, right? So in 2018, that consolidation, that quiet period started in June. And when it broke down? In November. Yeah. And here's same thing, June, November, and there's your breakdown. And this was before the breakdown started. And I actually kind of discovered that. I was like, let's look at when this started. I was like, oh my goodness. And then it was like, oh, November. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is the same almost to the day, period of the breakdowns, like June to November, and then the flush occurred. And I mean, that is kind of freaky how that does work out like that.
Moreover, the swift crash of one of the world's largest and fastest growing crypto exchanges within days, when no red flags appear to be present, is infusing further skepticism in an already battered market during a year of economic turmoil. The collapse of FTX highlights the risks of investing in the crypto market. One day you're cruising, the next you're running to pull your money out in a classic bank run. Crypto isn't insured by the federal government through FDIC insurance, and like many other exchanges, FTX's insurance policies overcovers some crime events, including theft and fraud. That means there isn't any insurance coverage just because the exchange goes under. So, do you agree with Gareth Soloway that Bitcoin can crash to 3,500 in this bear cycle? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.